Check. 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 Sound. Check. Check.
Honorable members, Madam Speaker.
Prayer.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge. Amen.
Item 2, communication from the chair. Honourable members, I want to welcome you to this afternoon sitting. Last week we were supposed to have a sitting, but we could not sit because we had the Women Forum prayer breakfast. We had the National Prayer Breakfast, and then we had the Independence Day, which affected our sitting last week. And that's why we preferred we should start on Monday today, which is unusual, but you'll have to bear with us because of this. And as I informed you that we shall be having the East African Legislative Assembly sit here, and I am informed they will be having a sitting in the morning and in the afternoon. So we may not be sitting. We may not be sitting when they are around, but in the meantime, we still have a lot of business pending, which we need to dispose of. And as I asked the chairpersons of the committees last week, that they should be ready with the RAPEX bills, so that we're able to pass the RAPEX bills. So once more, I want to welcome you from Independence, and for those who attended all the functions, I want to thank you so much, and we wish our country well. That's Kisteto. And we wish all the leaders of this country well at Kisteto, including yourselves, your leaders. You can't even clap for yourself. Thank you. Honourable members, have got a complaint from a number of women who have written to my office complaining on the issues of GROW. They are saying they are wondering whether GROW is to benefit the women in Kampala Road, or it is benefiting the women outside there. And the leaders are also saying they don't have the regulations. So they want you to share the regulations and then give us an account of who are the beneficiaries of the GROW. So I want to ask the minister to come to this house and give this house a report on GROW. Yes. Maybe before you, Honorable Avuru.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, you are really spot on. And I want to commend you for being a good and listening leader to the women of this country. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to agree with you that from my own district, and not only from my own district, Pakwach, I've consulted a number of women leaders here. The GROW project is intended to benefit women entrepreneurs of all classes, those that who are already having businesses that are ongoing. But most of the women have complained that when they go to the banks that these funds have been directed to, they are being asked for collateral in the form of land, and not only land, but they are even going ahead and say that they must have building on that land. They must produce evidence that they own land. Other than that, some of them are being asked to take photos together with their husbands. We are wondering whether GROW is meant for only married, legally married women, and yet there are very many of women out there not married. Right Honourable Speaker, other than that, the women are saying the guidelines are not even there at the district. I tried to find out from the focal person in Pakwach district and the women leaders, and they are saying there are no guidelines. If the focal persons do not have guidelines, then where did the banks get these guidelines? we indeed need to have these guidelines applied to not only us leaders, but also to the focal persons in the districts. And indeed, like you have guided, we need an update report per district, how the GROW project is being implemented. And where possible, we need to be retrained, because we don't know how to lead as leaders, how to, promote GROW in our different areas. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Accountability for the monies that is being given out. Honorable Musenero. No, I'm sorry. That's not his name. Namanya.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. For clarity against, my name is Namanya Naboth.
Naboth
It is
Namanya.
as short as
NN.
that. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for raising that issue of GROW. I have personally interacted with several groups of women in my constituency. But the regulation and the requirements which women require to access funds from banks, really, when you read through, you see women cannot afford. First of all, they want collateral, as the honorable colleague has stated. But it's not only collateral. When you present collateral like women in Rukunjiri, they have agreements of land. But they have tossed them here and there. You bring a land, they say we need a title. You bring a title, they say we need a title which is searched, which is certified. A lot of issues, of which women in a local setting really cannot afford. So well, it's right that you need to get the minister to explain the gymnastics of this GROW money. Other than that, this GROW money that is intended to grow women, I think it will end up not growing anybody, assuming we don't intervene in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Milton, yes? It's a procedure matter.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, is it procedure right that we have continued to debate when you already ruled that the minister would provide some statement here?
No, they are giving a supplementaries of what they want the minister to bring.
Okay.
They are making additions on what they want the minister to add on the report.
Okay, thank you, Right Honourable
Yes.
Speaker.
Yes.
Right Honourable Speaker.
You can also add from
Yeah,
Kiboga.
Thank you, Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker.
And please don't repeat what
Yes.
the other person has said.
Yes, Right Honourable Speaker. They go ahead to request that after having a collateral, you must have a living business, which living business must have been attended to for the last 1 year. And there must be documents certifying that somebody has been in that business. Now, there are very many women who want to start off.
So you need to tell us whether you're giving money for working capital or for...
Yeah, and many women don't have records of anything they have been doing for the last 20 years. So we are wondering what they will show to actually prove that they have been in these businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing.
Thank you
Don't
very
repeat anything. Yes.
Thank you very much. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, 2 weeks ago, when members raised matters to do with the GROW project, the Minister of Finance here stood in on behalf of Minister of Gender and did commit both of them to come up with a comprehensive update and statement on the floor of Parliament. Madam Speaker, in line with that, I'm just seeking for your indulgence to be emphatic that since we don't have much time, tomorrow, like the presiding officer had stated last time, we dedicate some good time to discuss the GROW program, the GROW project. I thank you.
Honourable members. Kasese, you also had something? Then Judith. Let's be brief. We have...
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. There is a challenge that I find in this country of ours. I don't know what the national ID is for. In other countries, all you need is your national identification or passport. Here, it's like we have reduced the national ID to, an electoral season. I mean, what would you want even to know what business I have, the trading license, if all I have is a national ID? How are we going to help our fellow citizens? All they have is the national ID. So where else can they go? And in any case, GROW, who is going to pay the GROW loan? It's the taxpayer that includes the person that all that she or he has, especially the women, is a national ID. And Madam Speaker, I want to relate that with this is examination season. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, our fellow citizens, especially sons and daughters, are back in their homes because they can't afford paying tuition to zero balance. What kind of country are we trying to live, or, we need to put in place a country that is big enough to accommodate everybody. Otherwise, we're going to have a country where it's only the children, sons and daughters of the rich that will go to school. In conclusion, Madam Speaker.
You're saying that students have been sent away and they're not doing exams?
They're not doing exams because they haven't paid to zero balance, Madam Speaker.
Members, no child should be sent away from school. All the children should be allowed to do exams, and they will pay their money when they are picking the transcripts. You cannot chase away the students when they are doing exams. This is wrong.
You're the best in the world, Madam Speaker, and I hope school leaders out there have listened to the Speaker. This House has the constitutional mandate that if we resolve or pronounce ourselves on something through the leadership of this House, there's nobody under the sun that has capacity to reverse that decision. And I hope, Madam Speaker, that our fellow citizens, especially school leaders, can take that, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, as I see it, to reinforce that very point, we always talk about America. America accommodates everybody. If you're poor, you take your son and daughter to a poor school. And if you can't even afford uniform, there are schools in America, they will not ask anybody about a uniform if your father or your mother cannot. In the schools in America, as I take my seat.
Honorable, we've understood, but we are saying whether private schools or government schools, all the candidates must be allowed to do exams, and whoever goes against that should face the law. You cannot afford looking at paying school fees for your kid from P1 when he reaches S4 and is not able to pay school fees. To sit exams. Some people may not have money at that time, but they will have money at a certain time and they will be able to pay.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for their judgment and final verdict.
Joyce, Judith?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the same GROW program, GROW project is a response to so many multiple hindering factors to the women entrepreneurs. But not to repeat what my colleague had already said, Madam Speaker, the GROW project is not favoring the rural women who are sitting in the markets in the villages. Because when they go to the bank and they request for 5 million, I have my women who travel from Noya to Pakwach in a place called that big market to do trading there. And when they request for 5 million, they are sent back to again go and reduce the loan amount. And Madam Speaker, when they say they want requirements, the collaterals for the bank, I know the national ID is for identification whether you are a Ugandan or a resident of that particular place. But also when they ask for the cash flows, they want to see how you are operating. But if the GROW project, the aims were to respond or is to respond to multiple hindering factors, then we are not responding to hindering factors by asking the rural woman to go back and reduce the loan amount. Someone has requested for 1 million, you send the rural woman to go back and ask for 500,000.
Thank you. Honorable members, let's agree this way. Let's agree this way. Let's get a report on Thursday on this floor. Let's get a report on who are the beneficiaries of GROW, what is the minimum and maximum, what are the requirements, what are the regulations saying, and where have you covered so far, how much money were you given for GROW, how much have you spent, and sources of funding, and who are the focal persons on the ground that we can be able to follow with this GROW. And lastly, as leaders of the people, how do we get information on the GROW?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I'm happy to listen to the feedback from members and colleagues in Parliament about GLOW, which was launched about 2 years ago. And the Right Honourable Speaker, like you have rightly put it, it's a concern in the general public. And the Cabinet, 2 weeks ago, requested us to bring a progressive report. Today Cabinet is discussing that progressive report. But what we have raised here is going to enrich the progressive report, because some of the things that you have raised were not part of the report as far as I had read it before. So, Right Honourable Speaker, we shall abide by the decision, by your guidance on Thursday, to bring a comprehensive report about the issues raised.
Thank you. Next.
Item 3, Bills first reading, 3.1, the Assets of Departed Asians Amendment Bill 2024.
Honourable members, Lob has something.
Okay. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I was coming to consult with you first because I wanted to raise something in the presence of government.
Okay.
Government seems to be absent. However, I think I can still raise it, so it's on record. Government is here. Honourable Speaker, I am guided by the colleague here that government is here. I hope she will have answers to my issues. Now that you've decided to carry the cross. Right Honourable Speaker, because it's a different docket, but it's okay. Right Honourable Speaker, our duty, and even though the Constitution and the Administration of Parliament Act says the duty of the leader of the opposition is to keep the government in check, incidentally, that duty is for all of us in this house. All of us. That's why we are here. But as we do keep carrying out this oversight activity, there's many things that we discover. I, together with colleagues, were in Amuru last week, went to Atiak Sugar Factory, and I'll be sharing some of those findings in the coming days. We connected with them, raised concerns, because government has so far given about 723 billion.
Can I make a request?
Yes.
Lob, can I make a request that you raise that when the Prime Minister is in and the Minister of Finance?
That's what I was saying. I will, in the coming days, when there's a lot more presence. The one I wanted to raise was specifically about today, and you will hope to guide, Honourable Speaker. I went with colleagues after I wrote on 8th October to the management of Rocco Construction Company Limited that will go and interface with them, because so far government has given them 263.3 billion shillings. And there's been numerous concerns. I'm sure some of the members here have been called by staff. They've not been paid for 4 months. There's different projects, including our chambers, that is not being attended to. But on going there to carry out our oversight function, we found a letter at the gate written back to me saying that the board has denied us as members of parliament access to the premises of Rocco Construction Company. This is a private company, yes, but it has been given taxpayers' money. In fact, on the day the first batch was passed in July of 2022, even the majority report of the committee had several concerns. I remember that report was read by the Honorable K. Fachiwanuka. And both the majority and the minority report were saying, can we first do due diligence before we give this company money? Anyhow, it passed very quickly. We don't know what's happening. Projects have stalled. Staff are complaining. They're not being paid. We went to interface and interact with management as we have elsewhere, except for Loboa Hospital, which also denied us access. But the others, they do allow us access. We interact with them. And so I got confused because I know not very long the Minister of Finance will be back here in Parliament asking for more money for Rocco. But the company does not want to account. It is not paying staff. I wanted that we put government on notice, first of all, that as I know they are planning to come for more money, can they first account for what we have given to them? And if the company does not want to account for taxpayers' money, then return what has been given to you. We shall not bother you if you're using private resources, but if you're using taxpayer money, it's important that it is accounted for. I don't know what your guidance will be, Right Honourable Speaker, because the front bench, but our honourable colleague said she represents government.
Government.
Right Honourable Speaker, I thank LOP for the concern raised. Like you earlier stated, it's unusual for us to sit in the Parliament on Mondays, and today we are holding cabinet. Right Honourable Speaker, this matter will be referred to the Prime Minister, and I'm here to take notes for issues that will rise that government is going to respond to, so that I put them to the attention. Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Mehdi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, as I told you, while we are sitting today, we must finish the work by Friday, so that we give Iyala to sit here for 21 days.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. Right Honourable Speaker, while interacting with a few Ugandans in the diaspora,
I see people are fearing to go to the village. Yes.
Right Honourable Speaker, while interacting with a few Ugandans in the diaspora, it came to my knowledge, Right Honourable Speaker, that there are some Ugandans, just like other Africans, that are stuck in the Middle East, mainly in Lebanon, at the moment, where they are engulfed in the war between Israel and Lebanon. As you are aware, and as everyone has been witnessing, many Ugandans who conduct duties as house assistants in the Middle East are sponsored by individuals that own homes in those areas, which partly some of those homes are under severe bombardment at the moment. So just like other African migrant laborers, Ugandans need immediately what we would call foreign service assistance to either be repatriated back home or to find a safe haven at the moment. Secondly, others that offer these services have reported that in various countries where they work, most that fall sick are not given medical attention because they neither have insurances or some of their employers are disinterested in taking them to various hospitals rather than being given painkillers and paracetamol. At the end of the day, most of them come back in dire shape, and some of them end up probably dying from those areas. Right, Honorable Speaker, they want to hear the voice of the ministry in charge of gender and labor. And the reason is that when they refer to the companies that took them there is no answers rather than pure coercion to tell them that, listen, our role was to get you there. We have no responsibility beyond that. It's appalling. These are our young children. They are part of Uganda, and we owe them a duty of care. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Maybe before the Minister comes, I want to thank Honourable Sereko for raising the matter. But on this note, I think you could have read that in the last 1 or 2 weeks ago, I think our ambassador to Malaysia, Honorable Betty Bigombe, is doing wonders because she was able to rescue people who were deceived from Uganda and taken to Myanmar under the rebels. So if all our ambassadors, those responsible missions, can work with that type of heart, I think a lot could be achieved. And she was still mentioned in that interview with the Monitor that there are still some people who are still in the captivity under the rebels in Myanmar. So maybe the minister could also add on her clarification on this matter. How many do we still have in captivity of the rebels? Because they were lured to Malaysia, to Thailand, and they're going to do work, but in the end, they ended up in the rebel activities.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Madam Speaker, on issues of externalization of labor, we have done a lot of reforms of late. And we have some Amazon offices where people can report to, especially those in destitute. Right Honourable Speaker, but a number of people had gone to these countries before these reforms came. And there are also many companies that have been faulting the regulations. A number of them have been disqualified and we have had to cancel some of those companies' licenses. Right Honourable Speaker, for an elaborate report, a comprehensive report, the Minister of State responsible for labor will soon come and present the new regulations and reforms and guidelines so that we can be able to direct or guide our people better. Right Honourable Speaker, on the issue Honourable Sereko raised, I think that is the issue Honourable Sereko raised. On the issue that my brother raised, I think the Prime Minister would talk about the issue concerning the young people who are in the rebel activities and all that. That goes beyond my ministry and docket. And I think the Right Honourable Prime Minister will address that matter when she comes. She's more updated on the developments in Malaysia.
Thank you. Remember, she told you she's taking notes for onward transmission. Let's go to the next item first.
Item 3, Bills first reading, 3.1, the Assets of Departed Asians Amendment Bill 2024.
Honourable members, you recall that on 24th September 2024, the executive tabled a RAPEX bill for the first reading. The House, however, stood over the tabling of the bill due to concerns that were raised by Honourable Byakatonda Nuru Abdul, the Workers' MP, and that was about the issue of the case that was in court that would amount to sub judice. However, the Attorney General wrote to us saying that will not stop the bill from going for the first reading. It could allow the bill to go for the first reading. And we were in possession of that letter. Honourable members, in the bill that is being tabled, we expected a full inventory of all the assets and liabilities as a schedule, so that we know what we are transferring and how we are transferring. This should have been included herein. It is very fortunate that me and Lop, we have ever been leaders of COSASE. We know what is in Asian Custodian Departed Board. Lop will tell you of head, and I will also tell you what is in that place. So I think it would be prudent enough for the minister to relay this information to the Minister of Finance, that as they bring this bill for the first reading, would they give us a list of assets, of inventory that is supposed to be taken over. Yes. And on the same note, when the minister was asked, the minister said he needed 1 year to get the list of those assets. But since it is RAPEX cannot wait, we need a list of the of inventory. Yes.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your insight in this matter. You are aware the issue in question is not just the inventory of the assets. There is also what somebody is already alluding to, the audit, a comprehensive audit. Why?
A forensic
we have
audit.
information that Idi Amin compensated a number of these properties.
President
and
Idi
these
Amin.
properties,
President
yes, His
Idi
Excellency Idi Amin, the late Idi Amin, compensated a number of the departed Asian properties, and those properties he compensated are getting to be repossessed. Then we are asking, under what circumstance is that happening? There were properties that were mortgaged in banks, and Uganda government redeemed those properties from the bank, and those properties are again being repossessed. In a submission of the Attorney General then, Honorable Bahati Katureba, he guided that the Ministry of Finance, which is responsible, is now seeking mandate, should go into prosecuting people. That has not happened, and they have not reclaimed those properties. Madam Speaker, we have the property register provided in the law. The county would want to know what is in the register. That is section 2. In the same law, we also have the Assets of Departed Asians Act. In section 13, Madam Speaker, there was also establishment of a special fund. We don't know what is in that fund. These people have been selling properties. Where are the resources? They have been renting. Where is the rent to income? Where are the accounts of this body? Why do they want to dissolve this body without accounting for the properties? This body is supposed to invest.
Richard, there's a procedure from Richard.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm raising on a matter of procedure, because on the order paper we are receiving the bill is being read for the first time. It's not yet even read. I see my colleague, the Honorable Lee, debating and giving a lot of information in regard to the bill that is not yet presented and read for the first time. I need your indulgence and guidance whether we are proceeding well for a colleague to debate a bill that is non-existent at the time, at the present.
Actually, Honorable Lee should take the information to the Minister of Finance and help them. That information that you're giving should help them. But I have already made a ruling that we cannot have this read for the first time because of that, because of what I've already mentioned. Next item.
Item 3.2.
Yes. Solo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. arise on a point of procedure. There is a public outcry about the recently concluded census.
How is it coming in?
No. Let me go ahead, Madam Speaker.
Is it a procedure on what is happening? That is something you should have come earlier to bring it up. Before. The procedure that you should raise should be a procedure on what is happening, what we are discussing now.
I agree, Madam
Next
Speaker.
item.
Item 3.2.
Yes, procedure.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the procedure issue I'm raising is from your statement where you have guided that some missing gaps from the bill would hamper it from being presented. But also you mentioned something very cardinal about the Attorney General's letter. Because the Attorney General, I don't know whether he's the one supposed to waive a bill to
determine sub judice.
To determine sub judice. Because we are House of Record, and Madam Speaker, we have other bills that have been stopped because of sub judice rule. Would it be really, I need your guidance. How should we refer to the Attorney General or for, because Madam Speaker, the rules give you the whole mandate to determine the sub judice, whether something is sub judice or not. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, in this country and in all the books of law, the law only allows the speaker to determine what is sub judice. That's why I never allowed it to stop. It is only the speaker who determines what is sub judice. Next item. Yes. Yes, Morris.
Thank you.
Morris, before you finish. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have pupils and teachers from Green Valley Nursery and Primary School from Katikamu North, Luero District. You're most welcome. Assalamu alaikum. You're most welcome. They are represented by Honorable Dennis Sekabira. Where is Dennis? Dennis is just out there having lunch. And then Honorable Brenda. Honorable Brenda is in a meeting assigned by LOP. Thank you so much for coming. And they are good leaders. Bring them back.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, you are doing a lot of work for these ministers. Right Honourable Speaker, these bills were there before. We had to ask them to do thorough work before bringing them back. Right Honourable Speaker, a minister brings a bill which is not even a quarter with the material we expect, and they put you to task to begin training them and putting them in the right place. Here, when some members of parliament are doing something which is not right, they say the training was not right. Maybe, Right Honourable Speaker, you ask through the President to have some of these ministers trained on what they are supposed to do better, so that at a given time, we don't waste a lot of time. You bring a bill which doesn't reflect what we expect out of you. Tomorrow another minister is bringing, another one is bringing the same story year in, year out. It's becoming too much, Right Honourable Speaker, as you guide them and tell them the right thing. Maybe through your office, Right Honourable Speaker, do some induction for these ministers so that by the time they bring back some other material, we see some work that reflect them as ministers. Thank you.
Thank you. Morris, To the best of my knowledge, Maurice, to the best of my knowledge, we have very competent ministers. It's just that they are not here, but we all learn on job. We all learn on job. Next item.
Item 3.2, Bill's first reading, the Sexual Offences Bill 2024. Honourable
members, the right of a member to initiate a private member's bill is enshrined in Article 94(4)(b) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, and is operationalized by Rule 121 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. For this particular bill, a certificate of financial implication was issued by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. This certificate indicated that some of the proposed measures therein are already implemented by relevant government agencies, that proceeding with the bill will lead to wastage of public resources. In addition, the certificate indicated that the proposal in the bill have a financial implication, which will be accommodated within the medium-term expenditure framework of the implementing agencies, such as Uganda Police Forces, Uganda Prison Services, the Office of Directorate of Public Prosecution, and the Courts of Law. In light of the consideration, the Attorney General did not indicate the particular laws that he was saying were being duplicated. They did not tell us how much amount was involved in terms of financial implication, and I would request that the House allows this member to introduce the bill for first reading, and then it will be interrogated in the committee so that we know which bills are being duplicated. I now call Honorable Anne Ebajo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for your wise guidance. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, on the 23rd of May, 2023, this Parliament granted me leave to introduce the private member's bill entitled the Sexual Offences Bill. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, this bill's main object is to consolidate all sexual offences into one piece of legislation. And Right Honorable Speaker, on this subject matter, I have carried out numerous consultations and thereby today beg to lay the Sexual Offences Bill accompanied by a certificate of financial implications as is required under Section 76 of the Public Finance Management Act. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay a bill for an act entitled the Sexual Offences Act 2024, accompanied by a certificate of financial implication. I beg to lay.
Thank you. In furtherance to Rule 1291 of the Rules of Procedure, the bill stands. It is signed. I have the signed bill. The bill stands referred to the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs and the Committee of Gender, Labour and Social Development. But the legal will take a lead and report back to the House within the 45 days.
Most obliged.
Thank you.
Item 4. Item 5, laying of papers. The Inspectorate of Government biennial performance reports for the period July to December 2023 and January to June 2024.
Honourable members, Article 231(1) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda requires the IGG to submit to Parliament at least once in 6 months a report of performance of its function, making such recommendations and it considers necessary containing such information in Parliament may require. In furtherance to this constitutional provision, I received 2 biannual reports from IGG on 3rd October 2024, and today the reports will formally be laid on table. I now invite the Parliamentary Commissioner to table the report on the floor. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank IGG for complying with the law. Madam Speaker, last week I raised an issue in relation to compliance of MDAs and also Parliament of Uganda in bringing to this House annual reports. Section 50 of the Administration of Parliament Act requires that the parliamentary commission shall bring to this House an annual report detailing activities of the House. So is also other MDAs. Now that IGG is complying and the commission is in the process of laying this, when do we expect the annual report of the Parliamentary Commission on activities of Parliament, so that you also in compliance with the law?
The Parliamentary Commission has always complied and laid the reports on table. Please, Commissioner Lay.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the Inspectorate of Government biannual performance report to Parliament for a period July to December 2023. I beg to lay.
Please lay. Honourable members, the report is referred to the Sectoral Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs for further scrutiny and consideration.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the Inspectorate of Government biannual performance report to Parliament for the period January to June 2024. I beg to lay.
Refer to the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary.
Item 6, motion for adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises on the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Uganda Posta Limited for the financial year ended 30th June 2023.
Honourable members, the report of Posta Uganda Limited is going to be presented by the Chair of COSASE. I now want to invite the Vice Chair, Park COSASE, to present the report. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, if we see the way things are moving, there are days when you'll call a house on Monday. But through your office, we wish to know, because originally we had information that all state ministers don't attend cabinet. There are ministries that have three ministers, others more than 3. We need maybe to know through your office whether if the sitting is for Monday, we take it that all ministers, including state ministers that don't attend the cabinet, daily will also be absent. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable, please.
Right Honourable Speaker, I'm here to inform the House that the Ministers of State do attend the cabinet. Today I did not attend cabinet because there was a Kiswahili Council on the order paper, and my colleagues did attend, so I am well represented, but I had to be here. Thank you.
I thought what Honorable Morris was asking, that how come that all ministers, including the state ministers, are absent, and yet some of them would be here.
Right Honorable Speaker, I rose to address that matter, that all ministers and ministers of state do attend cabinet. That's why they are not here. All of them are in cabinet today. I excused myself because I knew there was a unusual parliament on Monday, and there was something on the order paper, because it's not quite usual. Usually we sit on Tuesday to Thursday in parliament. But today, since there was a reflection of a bill that we funded or that we are supporting, I came to ensure that we don't miss out.
Let's after we shall need a treasury memoranda. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, under Rule 219, I beg to lay the minutes attached to the report. I beg to lay.
Please lay.
Madam Speaker, I also beg to lay the copy of the report. Report of the Public Accounts Committee on commissions, statutory authorities, and state enterprises, on the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Uganda Post Limited for the financial year ended 30th June 2023. I beg to lay.
Please lay.
Madam Speaker, let me go direct to the gist of the report. Page 2, 2.3, review of financial statements of Uganda Post Limited, or UPL, or Posta Uganda. You can call it Posta Uganda. Honorable members, when you go to page 6, because of limited time, observations and recommendations. The committee made the following observations and recommendations. Under sales revenue performance, it was observed that sales revenue reduced by 6.29% due to a decline in receipts from burger rentals, that is 64%, M-bags 53%, post-shop sales 68%, and the commissions by 102%. This arose from competition from unlicensed carrier operators. According to a market performance report of Uganda Communication Commission for the quarter ended March 2023, 60% of the carrier business is conducted by unlicensed companies. Unlicensed postal and carrier operators cause government to lose tax revenue but also compete with licensed companies. Recommendation. The committee recommends that UPL diversifies its revenue streams, while at the same time UCC improves its regulations of the industry to curb unlicensed operators in the market. On operating expenses in financial year 2022-2023 declined by UGX 0.492 billion due to lower spending marketing by 50%. This in effect could have also impacted on lower sales revenues. Recommendations. The committee recommends that UPL continues to invest in marketing of its services to improve revenue streams. The structure of the company's employee cost largely towards human resource rewards should be monitored and kept within the 65% thresholds of recurrent spending. The company's interest costs arising from the overdraft facility to boost its liquidity position should be suspended until the company institutes mechanism of correcting outstanding receivables. On debt write-offs, write-offs have grown by 149%. Caution needs to be exercised with the continued rise in debt write-offs. Recommendation. The committee recommends that UPL should establish a correction mechanism for all outstanding receivables prior to the start of the debt write-off process. Default on statutory payments. Analysis of payables and other accruals largely consist of UCC liability, payroll liability, payable and VAT, which are statutory in nature. This means the company is defaulting on statutory payments. Recommendation. The committee recommends that UPL prioritizes payment of all its statutory obligations within the medium term and incurrence of new statutory liabilities be avoided. On company liquidity position, the company is facing liquidity challenges as the current ratio is less than 1. Recommendation. The committee recommends capitalization of the company by its shareholders subject to the improvement in the management of existing resources over the medium term. 3.0 Observations and Recommendation, the Auditor General's queries. 3.1.1 Implementation of the approved budget. Page 9, Committee Observation. The committee observed that there was under collection of revenue by the company by UGX 4.031 billion. 2. While management cited effects of COVID-19 for the poor performance of NTL, the committee observed that in the financial year 2021-2022, NTL generated was much higher than the year under review by UGX 0.66 billion. Both periods after the pandemic, therefore, the excuse of COVID-19 could not exhaustively explain the decline in revenue collection. All collected revenue is spent at source. Recommendation. The management of Posta Uganda should improve the company's revenue mobilization efforts to ensure sufficient revenue at the entity's disposal to implement its plans. 2. The revenue collected by the entity should not be entirely spent at the source, but consider making a profit and declaring dividends to the shareholders. 3.1.3 Utilization of collected revenue. Page 11, recommendations. Committee observations. The committee observed that unutilized revenue of UGX 0.397 billion reported as profit of the company for the period under review is in fact unspent revenue despite the entity under collecting revenue. Recommendation. The accounting officer should ensure that revenue is spent as per the approved budget. 3.1.4 Unsupported output budgets. Page 12, Committee Observation. The committee observed that non-provision of the detailed costing for activities implies that the costing at output level cannot be justified, and as such, there is a risk that the company either over or under budgeted for these outputs. Recommendation 1. Going forward, the accounting officer should ensure that budget figures are appended to each activity to ensure rational operations and proper accountability. 2. The Minister of Finance should capitalize the entity. 3.1.5 Implementation of outputs. Committee observation 1. The committee observed that failure to monitor and report on performance of planned activities makes it difficult to verify whether the activities were fully implemented. 2. Noted that the difference between the unimplemented activities and the utilized funds were significant. 3. Also observed that failure to indicate detailed plan activities creates haphazard implementation of the entity's work plans and compromise the quality of its output. Recommendations. The committee recommends that management should ensure that staff capacity is built on enable development of proper work plans and performance reports which can be utilized to measure performance. 3.2 Management of the government salary payroll. 3.2.1 Validation of employees on the entity main payroll. Committee observation, that is page 15. The committee observed that dealing with staff with lack of requisite information, such as national ID, appointment letters, jeopardize their eligibility and authenticity during and after their service time. Recommendation. Management should periodically update employee lists, reconcile the payroll, and liaise with other relevant stakeholders to ensure timely payroll access of new employees and deletion of those who have exited. 3.2.2 Inconsistencies in employee details. Committee observation. The committee observed that inconsistent information undermines the integrity of the company's records and may complicate the employee service history and retirement procedures. Recommendation 1. The accounting officer should engage the affected staff and ensure that employee records are duly updated and brought to the attention of the appropriate authorities within a specified timeline for action. The accounting officer should ensure that the staff whose particulars had inconsistencies and were advised to make statutory declaration audit poll should submit the same for verification during the following audit period. 3.2.3 Utilization of the wage budget. Committee observation. The committee observed that failure to utilize the budgeted wage funds implies unrealistic budgeting in respect of the wage bill and locks resources which could have been used to deliver other public services. Besides, this could also expose the unutilized funds to the risk of misuse. The committee was equally concerned about the unutilized wage budget of UGX 1.63 billion in the financial under review, with the payroll liability and pay payables as mentioned in their financial statements. The unutilized wage budget should have been used to offset payables. Recommendations. 1. Management should always adopt prudent budgeting principles by using the positions in post and approved recruitment plan as a basis for budgeting. 2. The accounting officer should always ensure that payment of payroll liability and pay payables are consistently done as budgeted, failure of which he should be held personally liable in accordance with Section 79(1)(e) of the PFMA. 3.2.4 Review of the entity staff establishment. The Auditor General undertook procedures to review the completeness and relevance of the entity's establishment, and noted that out of 249 approved positions, a total of 170 positions were filled, leaving a gap of 77 vacant positions. Committee observation. The committee observed that vacant positions negatively affect the company's capacity to deliver on its mandate. Recommendation. The committee recommends that accounting officers should quicken the process of filling vacant positions current in the entity's staff establishment. 3.3 Asset revaluation. Members, you can see copy of the report attached, Annexure 1, for more details. Page 20, we committee observation. The committee observed that 1. Not all the property of Posta had been included in the asset valuation report, which put to risk those assets that were not declared in the valuation report. It was noted that the assets that were not valued were disclosed on page 24 of the financial statements. For most of the property valued, the value of land was higher than the value of the buildings. This implies that the buildings were in a dilapidated state. Recommendation. The accounting officer should address the ownership issues and ensure that all the company assets are properly valued and reported at fair values as per the provision of international accounting standards. 2. The dilapidated property of UPL should be urgently renovated and redeveloped in order to achieve value for money. 3.4 Unresolved property disputes and non-approval of write-off of receivables. Members, you can check on Annexure 2A and 2B for more details. On page 22, committee observation. The committee observed that 1. The unresolved property disputes were beyond the management level of UPL, leading to forfeiture of receivables for 9 years. 2. Unclear ownership of the property is the main reason behind failure by tenants to pay outstanding receivables to Posta Uganda. 3. The committee notes that the entity's land is at risk, requiring urgent intervention. 4. There were areas that needed thorough and special investigation, but the committee did not do so owing to resource and time constraints. Recommendation. The committee recommends that 1. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and Minister of Information Communication Technology resolve the impasse between the companies and ensure that UPL is paid all outstanding receivables within 6 months from adoption of this report. 2. The committee be given more time to deeply investigate the matter relating to ownership, status, and management of the entity's property. 3.5 Trade and other receivables. Committee observation. The increasing trade receivables of UGX 5.5 billion is a matter of concern to the committee as they continue to deny the company the cash flows which are vital for service delivery. Besides, a high level of accounts receivables may lead to uncollected debts and resultant cash flow deficiencies that may lead to other liabilities for funding operations and even risk business closure. Recommendation. The committee recommends that management should enforce and exhaust the debtors management policy by making prompt reminders to debtors and devise a strategy to fully recover the debts. (3.6) Accumulation of trade and other payables. Committee observation. 1. The committee observed that among the payables were payroll liability, NSS payable, and pay payable, which are statutory obligations. Accumulation of payables create a risk of litigation that may lead to payment of penalties and fines for delayed settlement to possible aggrieved parties in the future. Recommendation 1. The accounting officer should ensure that all statutory obligations and areas are prioritized and settled as first call on their budget for financial year 2024-25. 2. UPL should put in place a policy for management of payables and minimize the risk associated with continued accumulation, which may become a burden to the entity and lead to negatory expenditure. 3. Prior to recapitalization, UPL should implement its debt collection policy so as to fully meet its obligation as they fall due. 3.7. Management of significant court awards against UPL. It was observed that the Court of Appeal delivered a judgment against UPL wherein UPL was required to settle a total of UGX 45 billion to the plaintiffs in the case involving UPL and UTCL versus Bernard Mwetise and OR's company advocate, number October 2014. The claimants had sued UPL for recovery of pension, general damages, and other court reliefs. At the time of audit, the claim had not been settled by UPL, and there was no commitment to pay the claimants who had won the court case in the uncertainty. To this, the accounting officer stated that UPL should not settle the claim in question because the amount was beyond its means, adding that government of Uganda took over the liability which arose during the process of privatization and rationalization of parastatals, and that a third-party notes had been applied for to have the Attorney General join as a party. During the interface with the committee, the accounting officer provided a status update of the obligation indicating that government of Uganda took over the ability to pay pensioners of the defunct Uganda Posts and Telecommunications Corporation, that is UPTC. Committee observation. The committee observed that since government of Uganda took over the ability in this case, it is therefore its obligation to make timely settlement. Members, you can look at Annexure 3 for more details. Recommendation. The committee recommends that Ministry of Finance should expedite its obligation and any other related incidental costs within 6 months after adoption of this report. 3.8. Unpaid salaries and gratuity. Annexure 4A, 4B, and 4C for more details. Committee observation. 1. The committee observed that delays and failure to promptly pay staff salaries and wages will lead to a demotivated workforce and high staff turnover, which has already caused adverse effects to UPL's operations. The committee observes that there has not been joint effort by the concerned stakeholders, that is Ministry of Finance, Ministry of ICT, and UPL, to address delayed payments of salaries and gratuity. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the concerned stakeholders should work jointly to expedite settlement of outstanding salaries, gratuity, and pensions. Lastly, that is on page 27, 3.9, unimplemented procurements. Committee observation. The committee observed that 1. Planned procurements worth UGX 40.457 billion were yet we are not yet implemented by 30th June 2023. Delayed implementation of procurements leads to delays in implementation of critical planned programs. 2. The planned procurement amounts of UGX 40.457 billion were above the entity's budget of UGX 17.543 billion and therefore unable to undertake the procurement. 3. The entity's revenue performance of UGX 13.512 billion could not be able to cover both the entity's operational and procurement requirements. 4. Some of the procurements required a multi-year commitment plan to enable their implementation. Recommendation: the accounting officer should exercise prudence while compiling budgets and annual procurement plans to take into consideration and current cash flow challenges faced by the company. Conclusion: Madam Speaker, the foregoing observations on Uganda Posta Limited are adequate to infer that the entity's entire performance needs significant improvement. The outstanding payables and receivables, underabsorption, understaffing, court awards, and the unresolved property disputes compounded the operations of the entity against an overarching demand to deliver on the entity's mandate. The scope of the challenges encountered requires concerted efforts of wide-ranging stakeholdership and players to bring them to a logical end. I beg to move.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair of COSASE. Yes, Christian. Did I hear anything about the pension for the people who used to work with UPL? Have they been paid all? Did you get an inventory for the people who are supposed to be paid? And how much is outstanding? Yes, Christian.
Thank you, Right Honorable Chair. Right Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Committee, for the report. Honorable Speaker, on page 8, it is indicated that there was a gap in the collection of the revenue, and they cite that it was the COVID effect. Right Honorable Speaker, the year in focus was the second one after the COVID period. And I've also been hearing a number of excuses due to COVID. Yes, the year immediately after COVID scourge had performed even better than the second year. So I don't know how we can close off the COVID effect, but it is continuing to be an excuse to very many entities. And Right Honorable Speaker, also on page 11, they indicate that the work plans, they do not have costing and budgets. And Right Honorable Speaker, we as a country may not have all the money to offset these budgets. But when we indicate that they are unfunded priorities, somehow, somewhere we can get interested donors. But if these activities do not have costings, it becomes very difficult for any help to come in. And Right Honorable Speaker, on page 12, they indicate that some of the outcomes and outcome indicators did not have activities. We are wondering which logical framework they used and what did the board approve as the annual work plan, and what does the monitoring and evaluation officer do, and how do they finalize that, oh yeah, we have tried to implement according to plans when there are no activities in line with the main objective. They even indicate that some of the objectives, some of the outcomes were not in line with the strategic objective of Posta Uganda. So this one brings us to a question of what, do they even have a monitoring and evaluation officer? What did the body do in the approval of the annual work plan? And I will end with page 17, where they show actual on all years apart from the first year of 2019-2020, they were not fulfilling, spending the entire wage budget. But the entity still has a lot of liabilities, payroll liabilities, payee, on page 17. And we are wondering, you did not use the money to offset this, but at the same time, it means there must have been redundant funds that were misused. If the money remained on wage and was not paid for these liabilities, then what did it do? So, Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much for allowing us to look into through Poster.
Thank you. Who is managing Poster? Is it government of Uganda? Is there an investor? Or whichever.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, for the question. Right now, the accounting officer has called Mr. James Alinaitre, and he came with Mr. Sigmund Robert, Head of Finance, Mr. Charles Opio, Company Secretary, Daniel Onyango, Manager Procurement, Nakaunde Maureen, Supervisor and Manager, Corporation Immaculate Namoviru, as of now.
How many shares do we still have with the Poster Uganda? How many shares?
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, most of the questions have gone to the front bench, but unfortunately it is blank. But I can...
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Uganda Post Limited, trading as Poster Uganda, is under Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and is 100% owned by Government of Uganda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Yes. Faith, then Lillian, then Isingiro, then
Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I also wish to thank the committee for doing a detailed analysis on the performance of Poster Uganda Limited. Right Honourable Speaker, Poster Uganda Limited is a very good idea for this country. It's the only thing that offers a proper identity for especially corporate persons. It's a very good idea. But from the report that the committee has read, it appears Poster Uganda Limited is being mismanaged. Or rather, it is not being run as a business. They have explained about the unpaid interest on overdraft, the receivables exceeding 5 billion, many things that are gross, that a proper business that is being run. Or if someone likes the job, they would do better. So Poster Uganda requires re-engineering, change vision.
financial re-engineering.
Exactly. Change the strategy. And maybe it's not being supervised very well.
But as an accountant, you'd first want to understand where are the receivables coming from? Who are those people that you're supposed to pay that have not come to claim for their money? Or is it something that you've kept there as a suspense account, that the money that you don't know how to allocate it? And how much payable do you have?
Exactly. So somebody is not bothered. It's not being run properly as a business. So you don't care whether people pay for services you're offering or not. The only thing going right, according to the report, is the payment of salaries. And that's not fair for the country, Madam Speaker. So I propose two things that must be added to the resolution the House will make if the House allows it. One, that Posta Uganda, the board of Posta Uganda reassesses its vision and strategy so that they can find something that can work for this country. Two, that government of Uganda changes the process of appointment or selection of boards. So that, because it's not possible for this parliament to supervise everything and every day, there is a board, and there is a reason these boards exist. So that the selection of board members is made public, so that the people who are appointed board members to any parastatal of government are up to the task of ensuring that management does the right thing. I submit.
And I think, leave alone up to the task of management, but also having knowledge of what they are going to do. If you're looking at an institution like that, are you a technical person who is able to understand what is to be done in such an institution? Thank you. Lillian?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for this report. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General's Office has, for the last 3 years I've been in this parliament, emphasized the section of payroll and payroll management across entities. Right Honorable Speaker, the other week we were discussing the reports of PAC. Now here, one of the entities, the report for one of the entities in Kosase has been presented. But the irregularities in payroll and payroll management is something that is cutting across. And this affects very many entities. The report indicates that the entity returned about 1.6 billion. And here we are looking at 77 vacant positions that are not filled, and other payables or statutory obligations are also not being fulfilled. So this is a mismatch. Right Honorable Speaker, there are other entities where even staffs go without salary for some months because they don't have enough wage. But in another entity, we are seeing they are returning monies. So for me, I think the relevant ministries should cross-check this so that we don't have redundant money somewhere and some people are suffering somewhere. One of the key things in this report is about spending at source. And this is not the first time. This has continued to happen. I don't know whether the accounting officers are penalized because they have consistently...
That is again is a Public Finance Management Act.
Yes. So they are spending at source, and they have continued to spend at source. And it is an irregularity. I think this should be looked into seriously. Thank you.
And I think you need to, the person who is spending the money at source should be held accountable. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I would also like to thank the committee for the report. My issue I have is on debt write-offs. Because when I was reading in the report, debt write-offs up to 149%. And they don't have a debt write-off mechanism. I hope this is not
a debt write-off policy.
I hope this is not negotiated, so that you negotiate and they write off the debt, then later you share. Secondly, there was unspent revenue. When they don't spend revenue on activities, they go and claim that that's a profit. I wonder what type of management of the board, of the accountant they have in this institution. Lastly, the sales revenue are decreasing. When I went to administrative expenses, they were declining because they were leaving vital issues like marketing. Because very few people outside know what actually Uganda Post Limited does. Apart from when they used to have the buses, that's when it would be identified. So they are spending most of their money to pay themselves the salaries, to pay themselves the overtime, and they leave the marketing aspect. Lastly, I wonder, when we are looking for doing RAPEX, looking for rationalizing of agencies, why did we leave this one? This one should have been the first one on the list. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Kumi.
Thank you very much.
Liantonde. Then.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
My teacher, you will speak.
I want to appreciate the committee for the report. Madam Speaker, aware that information about Posta Uganda is getting limited, and the young Ugandans are not as much updated about the importance of this agency. The first one is related to what Honourable said, the decline or reduction of the sales revenue by 6.2%. Madam Speaker, we expected some bit of detail about the cause of it. That what are the factors responsible for that? What has brought about the decline? And the committee could have gone ahead to make proposals on how such gaps could be addressed. Then the second one is related to the uncosted plan work, the uncosted work plans. Madam Speaker, it now comes back and challenges us who are the participants during the time of budgeting. I think we need to be very, very critical at the time of budgeting when we are looking at the budgets that are presented before us. When we have the totals, do we really go further to look at the breakdowns of the totals that we are given? Otherwise, we can be taken in a blind way. We approve totals which we are not able to explain to the public, or rather to our Ugandan economy. Yes. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Noeline.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. I want to thank the committee for the report. Mine, I'm seeking clarification. The committee has reported that the company is defaulting on the payment of statutory obligations. I wanted to understand, is it from the budgeting perspective that when they are budgeting, they don't factor in the statutory payments they have to effect, or it is budgeted and may be diverted? Whereas I agree with the recommendation to ensure that these statutory payments are made, I want to find out why are they not complying with the payment of those statutory obligations.
Thank you. And you will find most of the institutions, most of the MDS default. They do budget, but you will find they will not pay, they will not pay NSSF, they will not pay gratuity, they will not pay water bills, electricity bills, all those kind of things. So you find most of these MDS tend to be stubborn. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really think that when we are seated on this side of government, the opposite side should be doing better than us. But when you look at this report, there's a lot really to put them to task to explain. Because if you don't know the ownership of the company you have just reported about, it tells you a lot. But my expectation of the committee would have been a comprehensive review of management of postal services, Posta Uganda.
Yes. Order on what?
Right Honourable Speaker, the colleague is making a very good submission, but is out of order to insinuate that the chairperson does not understand the report that he does present. He was very aware that the chair told him the front bench should explain about the details. And it's not good for you to allude that a colleague does not understand the report that he spoke to. So, Right Honourable Speaker, is in order to demean the efforts of the chairperson that presented a very good report, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, I'm constrained to roll on that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm very much in order because... Okay, sorry.
No.
I apologize. Madam Speaker, my concern is a lot to do with page 12, where the committee is recommending that we capitalize Posta Uganda with all the irregularities that they have mentioned. Or actually what the Auditor General has mentioned.
We should only capitalize after doing
a thorough
thorough audit of this institution to find whether it's a money-making institution or not.
Exactly. Madam Speaker, that was the basis of why I said that my colleagues could have done better than what they did. But, number two, Madam Speaker, they're talking about courier services government not giving them business. I really think that this is also not right on the side of government. We should support our own companies.
No, we cannot support something if you're inefficient.
Because,
no.
Madam Speaker, my argument is this.
Let me tell you, show your efficiency before we support you. Now, if you're going to tie institutions saying you must use Posta, when DHL is faster than Posta, how will it work?
Madam Speaker, number two, there was an issue of unlicensed courier operators in the market. You're not telling us what UCC is doing with that. You're only making a recommendation. You're not telling us what they should do or why they are allowing unlicensed operators on the market to actually outcompete the licensed operators, as you mentioned. Number three, Madam Speaker, they are also not recommending on credit. Honestly, Posta is borrowing to run its operations, but at the same time giving out credit with receivables of 15 billion. You're actually borrowing on behalf of these people you're giving out credit to. And then you're not making a recommendation on why they should not stop giving out credit. Because I believe even if they stop giving credit, it will deal with the liquidity issues you're talking about. It will deal with the challenges of debt collection you're mentioning. So you're not making a recommendation on that. So I think we could make a recommendation on debt collection. We make a recommendation on them giving out credit, yet they are borrowing to sustain their own operations. We should also give a recommendation on budget utilization. I found the report leaving out those issues. That's why I was complaining about their position. Thank you so much, Madam
Thank
Speaker.
you. Honorable Elotu Kosbas. Then Honorable Choma. Honorable Moses.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Allow me to commend the committee for their observations and the good report made. Indeed, Posta Uganda, as it is under the Ministry of ICT, a committee that I sit in. The issues raised, particularly on properties, Posta Uganda is almost losing all its properties to either UTCL, which is a new company which is being formed, on the other hand, and also the other parastatals that came out of Uganda Post. So I think the report's recommendations should really be adapted and strongly be recommended for purposes of restructuring how this entity operates.
Thank
you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Lavia.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for this elaborate report. And I want to agree with Honourable Nakut. Globally, post services are really recognized and important. But the way our Posta Uganda is managed leaves a lot to be desired. Right, Honourable Speaker, you've already pointed on the receivables.
Honourable children, you're welcome. He's a minister of children and youth. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Right Honorable, we've already talked about the receivables. Now, when you look at a bad write-off of which has increased by 149%.
149%.
Just imagine, 149% is an increase by which bad debts written off has increased. Secondly, there is a proposal of a further write-off of $500 million, more than $500 million, right, Honorable Speaker. And the report is very clear that they actually don't have receivables management policy, implying that this write-off is just accidental. They just write off the way they are praised. Yet with bad debts write-off, it must be keenly done.
Maybe we also need to understand who has the power to do the write-off.
Yes, Right Honorable. In a circumstance that they actually don't have a policy, it also becomes difficult. Now, this casts doubt as to whether the so-called bad debts written off were actually bad.
Yes.
Because in principle, for you to write off a debt, it must have proved to be actually bad. You must have put in place all ways and means to correct revenues from those debtors, and you have failed, and it's clearly seen that you have failed. But in the absence of that, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, then it means what is called bad debts written off may really remain a state to be investigated. And Right Honourable Speaker, I want to propose that actually this state of affairs requires a special audit. So it is done, I would have recommended actually a forensic audit, but the fact that it is very, very expensive, I think a special audit can also suffice, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, related to this, unsupported budget outputs. You just indicate outputs without actually indicating the figures to that effect. I think we are giving the committee a lot of work, the auditor a lot of work, and yet they want money. You indicate outputs, but you don't indicate figures. And further to that, actually, I want to thank the committee because that actually was very, very analytical. Even the activities to the outputs are not detailed. Even these outputs are not tailored to the strategic plan. What does it mean? That they just spend as and when they get praised, the Right Honourable Speaker. I think the whole thing needs a special audit, Right Honourable Speaker, so that really the activities of Posta Uganda can be put to the right direction. I want to submit, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable members, when I look at the report, it's a very good report. But most of the issues, most of the recommendations you've given are generic. They are generic, but we need to go in depth and look at issues of the receivable, payable management policies, the bad debts policies, all those things, those policies in terms of, we are looking at how much money are we saving from this. Who gives the powers to have a write-off? These are governance issues that must be sorted out. Yes, Moses Bwalo, Commissioner Apio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for
I'll
giving me this
come to the
opportunity.
ladies and
I want to thank the chairman and his committee for the report they have presented as a ritual. Because it is only civil, at least to appreciate someone for the work they have done. I just want to comment on a few things. One is on unlicensed service providers. This is a very critical issue because it casts light to UCC, which is the regulator. They should explain why they are not able to manage the sector or the industry. Because how can people operate in an environment where they are supposed to regulate and they operate? So they should really make sure they get to the bottom of this and get rid of the unlicensed service providers. Then the report mentioned something about unspent money under the budget of salaries. And this is something versus the payables, which also includes aspects of salary. Those two observations are so contradictory. Because if there was a budget which was not spent under salaries, how then could there be payables that arose from the statutory deductions arising from salary? Somehow, that part of the report needs to be interrogated, or to be reconciled, or to be harmonized, so that we can get what is really required of it. Then on the diversification of revenue streams, as a recommendation, I'm sure you have looked at the mandate of Uganda, or Posta Uganda. The service that is supposed to provide, it actually limits them from moving to other trades to be able to diversify their revenue streams. So what we should be recommending is, possibly we should widen the mandate of Posta Uganda so that it can definitely have the latitude to go and explore other revenue stream areas. And failure to collect receivables with such an organization or institution. This is a KPI for management. And failure to collect this amount of receivables definitely is a vote of no confidence of the management. And that the recommendation should have really pinned the management on this. Because if you can't do the basics, then why are you holding that portfolio? So it should have gone to that. But, Madam Speaker, given the volumes, the amounts of money that are involved, first of all, receivables of 15 billion. We need to get to the bottom of this. Because, as someone observed, Posta Uganda is about to be cannibalized by UPAL. We should recommend for a forensic audit at whatever cost, because the amounts of money are required that are involved in this thing. It will help us to have the best and the most explicit state of affairs of the institution before it can be cannibalized further. Thank you.
You know, when you recommend for a forensic audit, they will tell you there is no money. And I am a very rich person with all the professions, and I am going to do, you know, one of the reasons that we are here is to help institutions. We should be able to go and help these institutions. We will not go as auditors. We will go and help these institutions and say, this is how you're supposed to run this institution. So I will not go for forensic, but I will get my specialized persons here. I know all of you what you can do. Yes, Honorable Bwalo.
Right Honorable Speaker, during the period of rationalization and privatization, a number of people were affected, including those in the UPL. Government did not pay them. I don't know whether there was no process, whether the government declined to pay them. They went to court and they won the case. I was following the report here, up to 45 billion shillings. And this was way back in 2014. They have not been paid up to now. Madam Speaker, a number of our people have died, those who worked in the UEB, those who worked in the East African community, those who worked in the Uganda railways. Most of them died without being paid. And now seeing our people here, who served the country diligently, up to now they have not been paid. I have seen the committee is recommending 6 months, that they should be paid in 6 months from the date of adoption of the report. Madam Speaker, I would request that this House directs the Ministry of Finance to come here to Parliament and makes a commitment. When is government going to pay these people? Because to just make a report like this, it will go. But government should make a commitment when we are going to pay these people. And then number two, I have heard of people, of debtors being written off, or to be written off. I want to ask, who are these people? Who are these debtors? Madam Speaker, I think before even we move further, this parliament, this house should demand a list of these debtors to be laid in this parliament, so that we follow that who are they. Is it Okupa? Is it Ebualu? Is it Faith? Is it who? Madam Speaker, together with the House, I want to request you, the House, that we demand a list of the debtors to be laid in this parliament, so that we get to know who are these people. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Mpuga, Honorable Pio, Workers. Elijah.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I would like to appreciate the committee for the endeavor. They must have struggled making sense of the nature of agency they're trying to assess. I was going to debate the report, but let me just read 2 paragraphs and sit down as a way of regurgitation of what the report is saying, for members to walk in the footpath of the presiding officer of saying, let's not make a reference, but instead do something about this mess ourselves. Right Honourable Speaker, I'm beginning with the paragraph on revenue. Total revenue amounting to 13.1 billion, of which sales revenue was 9.89 and revenue from other sources 3.6. For the financial year in review, compared to the previous year, it declined to 10.56, from 10.5 to 9.8. Now proceeding further, the reasons: rentals, post shop sales reducing, commission reducing. Now we'll go down, operating expenses. In the financial year, they declined by 0.49. When you go down, this was on account of lower spending on professional and legal fees, insurance costs, and general maintenance and marketing. You're talking about management. You are happy that your costs are reducing because you did not market, you did not pay insurance, you did not, you are listening to, and you're saying, so what's going on? I continue. However, despite the declining expenditure and the specific expenses, employee costs rose by 0.143. This was occasioned by a rise in acting allowances. Hope members are following what I'm saying. There was a noticeable rise in financing costs of the company from 0.26 to 0.31. Profitability. It registered an increase in profit after tax from Uganda shillings, that to that, compared to the previous year. This increment was due to non-provision for tax payment. So your profitability is increasing because you didn't pay tax. It's such an obligation. I finalize, Right Honourable Speaker. The company profit before tax was higher by 1.67. And the reasons are very clear. Debt write-off, non-payment of taxes. I think we're talking about a management crisis in the agency. I want to disagree respectfully from my brother who said they should have been rationalized. No. These agencies are set up for a reason. Part of the reason is to employ people, actually. And that's why I disagree sometimes with government rationalization of agencies on account of mismanagement. If it's on account of mismanagement, simply scrap up management. If people are handpicked from Kampala Road to offices, you get this. Can we get an understanding of how this came to be, that people are happy not to perform, happy not to pay taxes, and then they say, oh, we are making profit, we hid away from taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a very serious management crisis here, and the House should have strength to recommend a serious follow-up on the nature of management and how they are going about their work. In the financial year 21-22, there was a crisis here on the budget of UPL. Parliament had declined in giving them money because of failure to pay former employees. Yet there was provision every financial year. These issues must be interrogated, Right Honourable Speaker, so that we can help the country, not simply wishing away the agency. It's very useful. It's facing a management crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Appeal, Honourable Workers.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I would like to also join my colleagues to thank the committee for its work. But I would like to note, in addition to what has already been noted, that, Madam Speaker, it's been many years, very many years, since I heard that when land is valued higher than the building sitting on it, then that land must be dilapidated. And I find that quite simplistic. On page 20, yes, on page 20 of the committee report, the committee observes that most of the property valued, the value of land was higher than the value of the building on the land. And then it goes ahead, the committee goes ahead to deduce that that it implied that the buildings were in a dilapidated state without anything additional, to push the point further. And Right Honourable Speaker, all my life growing up, I was taught that the value of land depends on the forces of supply and demand. I would like to request that, if
land
possible,
appreciates, it does not depreciate.
It appreciates, yes. I would like to request that the committee or the persons in charge, the ministry, whichever, if it pleases you, Right Honourable Speaker, gives us something definite. Do we have property that are dilapidated and in need of renovation or not? Because it is not clearly stated here. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Workers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Right Honourable Speaker, we have a challenge. Those of us who are representing the workers. You find that, as someone mentioned, when they close or when they change the guards, in inverted commas, you find that the workers lose out completely. What I know about what we are talking about, post office, Uganda, the people retired or were retired in public interest because there was no money anyway, and instead they are going around for 10 years. You can imagine that these people worked diligently and they are with a lot of their energy. They have children. When you are sent, when you go away and when you retire, you find that people, that's when they want medicine because they fall sick, but nothing is done. And yet we know that when a new board comes on board, surely they must know that they have liabilities and assets to look towards too, and make sure that they do what is expected of them. The same thing has happened to other organizations, government organizations, which have been mentioned. Me, I know more about the railways because we moved there to the management, new management, when they started. But up to date, they have not been able to pay those people. So you see the plight of the people who are working in this country. And me, I think, when we talk about gratuity, which was lost, we also have NSSF. They didn't even pay for NSSF, and people have been moving up and down. They have tried to go to court. Nothing has come out. Surely we should help these people who are the voiceless in this parliament, because we always say we are standing in for the voiceless. Colleagues and friends, Right Honourable Speaker, colleagues and friends, I would want to see at least a change in this one, so so that we know that there is a starting point. But otherwise, we are a laughing stock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Youth. I am not a youth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Chair, for the good report that you've given to us, that has given us some insight on what's happening in UPL. Madam Speaker, when you look at the report, it brings out clearly that this entity is suffering and struggling to meet its financial obligations. And it is the same entity that is declaring a positive cash inflow or a cash flow that is positive. But the same entity is not able to pay off its salaries on time. It can't meet the gratuity obligations on time. It can't clear the rent areas. I think by the report that the Chair has given us, it is clear that the management of this UPL or Uganda Posta Limited might not be up to the task or might not be willing to give the country the best, because these are people that are trusted to do a service to the nation, but they might be seated somewhere doing what pleases them and doing it when they do wish to do it. So I think I strongly agree with the recommendations of other colleagues to see that special audit or special investigations are taken, deep investigations, to ensure that a lot of the work that is done in this entity really matches the demand and the quality that is needed to run a country and an organization like that, where taxpayers' money is invested. But also, government should come up. The good thing, we got a clarification that this is a government agency and it is 100% owned by government. But when you look at the staffing, whereby we have 77 deficit in the staffing level and also the delay in the payment, these might be some of the reasons why those that are given the task or the opportunity to work do not reach the desired quality because they don't operate on time.
Thank you. Kampala.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I would like to thank the committee chair, the vice chairperson, and the entire committee for the report. Right Honorable Speaker, I bring you greetings from the people of Kampala that I represent. And my submission is basically on the issue of a breach of statutory duty. We have realized from the report that the entity is not obliging, is not keeping up to date by paying and remitting the NSSF and the pay and such other levies. And Right Honorable Speaker, this creates a lot of legal implications. It can come with a lot of repercussions and actually more financial costs and implications. Yes. So in that spirit, Right Honorable Speaker and members, I think it's also better that we should advise these entities to start making good use of their legal departments, because I have worked in some of these entities and I noticed as a lawyer that sometimes they don't listen. You know, lawyers are the experts of experts. They interpret all the laws and advise accordingly. And when you do not comply with any law, at the end of the day, you'll find yourself in court.
Thank you.
So, Right Honorable Speaker, thank you for that opportunity.
Goretti.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mine is
Dennis,
brief.
I was calling you, you're not here. You will speak on the next one.
Right Honorable Speaker, this one is about the unimplemented procurements to the tune of 40 billion. Whereas Posta Uganda has a budget for that, had a budget for the financial year under review of 13 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, much as the reasoning was, some of these were multi-year projects, but this is very abnormal. I think it gets back to the management of Posta. This is overcommitment. You cannot commit an organization to that extent. And you know what it means? You cannot, if you look at the contracts that were supposed to be implemented, you can't commit an organization to the tune of 40 billion when you just have an annual budget of 13. Even if you had been given, you had collected all the money for the 3 years, assuming the project was like for 3 years, those are close to 30-something billion. So, Right Honorable Speaker, this comes back to the committees of Parliament. These work plans come to the sectoral committees when we are processing the budget. We should also give much more attention to the work plans versus the budgets, so that we can avoid overcommitment. Otherwise, this is a duty of all of us. The fact that we are yet to undertake the budgeting of the financial 25-26, we should be keen on this, so that we advise agencies than waiting for accountability, which at the end of the day becomes a cost to every one of us. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson of PAC Central. Love, you see how making people in leadership, to be in leadership, grow. Now, Goretti speaks with authority.
Honorable Speaker, she forgot to remind us that she's a former minister of Science and Technology. Honorable Speaker, I want to join colleagues in appreciating the committee for the work they did in unearthing a couple of things. Again, I'm at pains. How I wish the front bench had a lot more than the colleagues we have here today. This entity here has got two shareholders, Minister of Finance and the Minister of ICT. Not the ministry, the minister, the individuals. So it would have been good if those two shareholders were here to first of all help us understand whether they even know what's happening with the entity for which they are shareholders. Because all of these things we are seeing here speak to a leadership problem. Because management might be on their own doing whatever it is that they want to do. We don't know if the board is interested, and resultantly the shareholders. Because when you see, and you know, at the risk of repeating what colleagues have even been mentioning, payables, 20.4 billion shillings. Court awards to the tune of 45 billion shillings. You're having payroll liabilities.
And to who?
There you are. Payroll liabilities. Staff not being paid. This is to the tune of 3.23 billion shillings. But then we expect them to deliver. But how? How do we expect them to be that tick standard entity? And you're not paying basics like salaries. That means staff will come on Monday, Tuesday they will not show up, and you're not going to call them to order. You're not paying them. They don't have transport to come to work every day. But then we expect results. For me, I'm actually surprised that we are surprised that this entity is performing this way. Why are we surprised? If things are as shaky, I am hoping, even though we've handled the report today, maybe we should have opportunity to hear from the shareholders who are really commandeering this entity on our behalf, the rest of us Ugandans. Because this is taxpayers' money that is being blown up this way. I'm hoping we can have that opportunity. I would want to hear from them, because you see, we are here quarreling, and rightly so. We are agitated. But for them, they might be happy that things are happening well. I think we need to call them to order, firstly, before we even call the entity to order, because they are our exact direct link. I hope we can get to do that, right, Honourable Speaker. That yes, as we pass this through, follow up what we need to follow up on, these ministers need to help us understand if they really are in charge, or if they are even interested in this at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, honourable members. You've heard. I now put a question that the report of Public Accounts Committee on commissions, statutory authorities, and state enterprises on the report of Auditor General on financial statements for Posta Uganda Limited for the year ended 30th June 2023 be adopted with the amendments. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. And based on Rule 191, because I need an in-depth scrutiny of this institution, such that we will hold the ministers, the shareholders accountable, and as we wait for a treasury memoranda, I'm going to name a list of 5 members to go and look at these books of accounts of the institution. Honorable Nakutu will chair the committee. Honorable Moses Alepe, Honorable Taewa Habat, Honorable Choma and Honorable Mushemesa, a team of 5. I'll give you the terms of reference tomorrow. No, I'm looking at the qualification. It is an ad hoc committee. Mushemesa is the independent. Honorable members, let's not mind about the position or whichever. Let's look at getting information. You get it? Eh? Give me one. Okay, I've added a Karim. But who? Now, guy, you are not an accountant. Go away. If it was procurement, I would put you. Yeah, I've added Karim to it. Next.
Item 7, a motion for adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Central Government, on the Auditor General's report on Treasury operations and consolidated financial statements of government of Uganda for the year ended 30th June 2023.
Honorable members, pursuant to Rule 1744 and 6 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I now invite the Honorable Chairperson of the Committee of Park Central. And as I speak up to today, Leader of Opposition, I humbly want to report that I've only got reports from Park Central, Park Kosase, and tomorrow is the deadline. I will adopt all of your reports, omnibus.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
But I must tell you that the 2 committees have done well.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm going to present a report of a report of a Public Accounts Committee, Central Government, on the Auditor General's report on Treasury operations and consolidated financial statement of Government of Uganda for the year ended 30th June 2023. Right, Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the minutes of the meeting and the 2 reports, Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
The one for consolidated account and for treasury operations.
Thank you.
I must also report, I think I've looked into other reports. It's the first time that a Public Accounts Committee has a report on the consolidated accounts of government and the treasury operations. Right, Honorable Speaker, on this one, for the first part, I'll be very slow because, and I will indulge members, is fairly a technical report. It's not a straightforward report. It's technical, and for the first 4 or 5 paragraphs, I'll beg to be extremely slow. Then the rest I'll go to the summary. Because, Right Honorable Speaker, after the first paragraph, any member of Parliament will for the first time know the state of our finances as government. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll straight away the funding performance I'll leave. Let me go to the committee observation. So, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, vote 130. The one I've always talked about, and treasury operations. It's a very important vote for us. And how I wish and pray that the House allows the chair to present that report tomorrow when the Minister of Finance is in the House. This is not just an ordinary report. This must, the minister must be there and he must respond to it immediately. Is that okay? Aye. The ayes have it. So you'll present tomorrow first thing, and the minister will be here. Next item.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. All the ministers will be here. Finance will be here. Acting. I want all the ministers here tomorrow. Yes. Next.
Item 9, Bill second reading. The Uganda National Kiswahili Council Bill 2023.
Honorable members, on last week we deferred this bill. When we deferred this bill, leader of opposition, you had issues with the bill?
Honorable Speaker, there were two, maybe three issues that we did raise, and up until now, there's been no proper remedying of these issues. Firstly, the bill that was availed was not signed, Honorable Speaker. You notice colleagues have been very vigilant that whichever bills are tabled, they ask, and Honorable Lee is present, is it signed? And they show us. Yeah? This particular one was not signed. And yet that can be seen as a seemingly small issue, but it's a critical issue because the document has got to be owned by somebody. So one, it was not signed, but number two, there was pettifogging over where should this house be housed. Ministry of Education on the one hand, Ministry of Gender on the other hand, the Attorney General pretty much meandered. We did not get to conclude this particular issue. We told government, go back, get yourself orderly, and then retable this bill, which is a simple thing to do. Because even if you insist and somehow it gets to pass, it will be challenged in court. You don't want that. Get it signed. Let's be sure under which ministry is this that we are processing, this entity going to be housed. So that is very clear. We then know who do we get to deal with, who do we hold accountable when we want to. And up until now, government has not done that. I had thought actually they would have cleared all of that so that we move very smoothly. I don't know if Madam Speaker, you said she's acting lead of government business. I want to request her to move and sit on the other end, with your permission, Right Honorable Speaker, because the lead of government business, plus her ADC who is carrying her bag, I don't. but hopefully she will have a proper response to us, because we put these questions to them. She was present. I don't know if they have rectified those issues, so that we are helping government to be orderly, so that tomorrow we don't have challenges if it is passed and there are many legal boxes that are not ticked. Thank you.
Additionally.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the other issue was the issue of the Swahili Council. Swahili is not the first language Ugandans are learning. Do we have councils for other districts, for other languages? We have Luganda being taught. We have Ateso being taught in schools. We have German being taught. We have French being taught. But we don't have a council. Why should this be special? Two, Right Honorable Speaker, why does Minister of Gender want to take it to them? Wait, all the other languages are under the Ministry of Education. Possibly it would have been the other way around, because the other ones which are cultural languages should have been the ones in gender, and then the ones which are not traditional languages here should be in the ministry. So, Madam Speaker, just like I put it, all this should be housed in the ministry, and there should be no council, because other languages don't have councils, unless I'm really convinced that a special...
Madam Speaker, we are not going to gamble with the future of our children. Why do we need a council at this time? My humble view is that if you want to make Kiswahili compulsory in schools, other than bringing council, we are here talking of rationalization. You again want to bring people to manage the council. What is the use of this council? Are you going to bring the Luganda council, the Kumam council, the Ateso council? Which council? Who will manage all this? And in any case, Madam Speaker, there is no procedure here. Sit down. I'm talking. And in any case, this is a very important matter.
He's on procedure. He's on procedure.
Therefore, Madam Speaker, is the government procedure correct to bring the Kiswahili Council here? Yet already we are making the rationalization bills. We are scrapping them off. Therefore, I don't support this, and we must chase government with this bill. Let them come another day.
Madam Speaker, raising on a matter of procedure, I don't know why the honorable members are debating a bill that is not on the floor. We haven't yet called it.
No,
they have not yet presented.
It was introduced last week. We just deferred it.
But Madam Speaker,
don't worry.
It's a procedural matter because it's not on the floor. So why are we debating something that is not on the floor?
It was brought on the floor. You have sent. You know, I'd sent you out.
It has not been introduced, Madam Speaker.
I delegated you to do some work.
Yes, Madam Speaker, the bill is not yet here.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Education was introduced in this government to handle whatever concerns education. Whatever you talk about, whether education is in Rusoga, whether education is in Rugubara, is the Minister of Education. We are here, I'm even shocked and surprised to see that Minister of Gender has interest in something that in line with education. I'm very surprised. And in the last sitting, Madam Speaker, last week, issues came and we said, since this is the same government, let them Uganda sit and streamline. In fact, even streamlining was just for formality, but we don't even, I think it's high time we now tell them, because it seems they are not aware, that we don't expect to hear any other ministry outside education to talk about anything that is related to education.
Thank you. Honorable members, I had a meeting with the Honorable Mutuso and Honorable Gwang in my office. They were supposed to go and harmonize with their main ministers, together with the Prime Minister. Honorable Peace came back to me and said, for her that was cabinet position. Honorable Gwang says the bill belongs to them. So I am now making an order that, no, we are not voting. I am directing that both ministers come to the floor, or they come with a harmonized position. Come with a harmonized position from the Minister of, from Attorney General and from the Prime Minister. Yes.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. And I pray that I clarified before another clarification comes.
I wanted to find out whether she's speaking as a Prime Minister or the Minister of Gender.
Both.
Both. Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I want to allay fears of colleagues.
I am not a Prime Minister.
Sorry. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg your pardon. Right Honorable Speaker, I would wish to lay the fears of colleagues as to whether the Minister of Gender or Minister of Education should have sponsored this bill. This bill is sponsored by the Minister of Gender, not by error. The Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development is sponsoring the bill because it's mandated under Objective 24 of the Constitution, Article 6 on languages, Article 37 on the rights of culture and similar rights, Article 246.
Honorable Peace, are you going
Yes, Madam
to,
Speaker.
Honorable Minister, are you going to repeat the same thing when you come with the Minister of Education? Because I am telling you that I want to see both of you here. I have already made a ruling to that effect, that you come, both of you, and we sort out this issue and we conclude. And then there is an aspect of retrospective signing of a bill.
Most obliged, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a cabinet position. This bill was presented in cabinet. And
Can I have a
cleared
cabinet
it.
minute?
Cabinet minute.
Because I don't, the extract. Because extract, because I don't sit in the cabinet.
The cabinet extract is 437.
I am saying, can I a
2022.
copy? Can I have a copy that this is what was agreed? It is very simple, please.
Yes, Right Honorable
Very
Speaker.
simple. Come
I
back
will-
on Wednesday, we pass the bill.
Most obliged.
Yeah,
Right Honorable
it is
Speaker.
as simple as that. We've made a ruling to that effect. Let's have it done on Wednesday, because education is saying that is their bill. I don't know who is right. The issues of East African community, that is not it shouldn't be an issue. What matters? Like Luteso is spoken in Kenya. So should it be in Sudan, Ethiopia? I want to thank you so much. Your house adjourned to 2 tomorrow.